Welcome to One Trinity Place in San Antonio, Texas, as we're all set for Game 2 between the University of St. Thomas and Trinity. Hello everyone, welcome to San Antonio. I'm Cole Isaacson, joined alongside Luke Terry as we're about ready to get set in windy South Texas. And on the mound for the Tigers, it's Trajan Lee making his first start of the season, the second of his career with the Tigers, and leading it off for the Celts, it's Alex Trin, who takes ball one up and in.
And as we start off here in San Antonio, just a second ago, had the opportunity to take a little bit of a look at Trajan Lee's numbers. Very impressive, but exclusively out of the pen this season for the Tigers. Over 14 innings pitched, and the strikeout to walk ratio has been very, very good. The velo, very impressive with Trajan Lee standing on the mound. About 6'4", the righty is.
Pitch inside the zone for strike one. You mentioned it, Luke. Trajan Lee predominantly coming out of the pen this season, making his first start of the year. Outside and behind Trin, 3-1. Trin hit leadoff yesterday, was able to reach base on an error. Made it all the way to third, but didn't come in to score as the Celts were shut out last night. Trin fouls that back and brings the count full. Lined but foul past Diego Gomez. That would have been trouble if it had been fair.
Yeah, it would have been exactly the type of start these Celts would like to see here in San Antonio. Threatened early in the game yesterday, even with the gym that Joseph Shavana provided from this Trinity pitching staff.
High, ball four, and Lee loses the first batter he faces.
And it looked like a really good spot from Lee right there, and it was an admirable job to at least get back, make that at-bat competitive, but always difficult out of the gate, especially against a leadoff hitter when you fall behind 2-0. Don't want anything that catches too much of the plate in that scenario. Trying to just paint on the corners was a little too far outside, unable to do so, and issues the free pass to start us off.
As now Bearden, the left fielder, up. The top of the St. Thomas lineup remaining pretty much the same. Bearden hit 2 yesterday as well. Swings through that and he's down 0-2 quickly.
And a really nice pitch from Lee right there. Looked like it had a little bit of arm side run on that one, and ultimately Bearden saw a pitch over the middle of the plate, but as that movement got in on his hands, no way he was going to get the barrel through and make contact.
0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, strike three. The first strikeout of the day for Trajan Lee, and there's the 1 out away in the inning.
One of the most noticeable things about Trajan Lee as he starts us off here in San Antonio, batter number 1 versus batter number 2, the difference that a runner on base makes in his windup. Going through the full motion is a little confusing because it's a little bit more simplified than what you see right now with that runner over at first base.
And that hit him. So another Celt to first base as there's 2 aboard with 1 out.
And really was about to say that seemed like he was a little bit more comfortable with that runner over there. Makes sense for a guy that pitches almost exclusively out of the pen, usually inherits some nastier scenarios on the base paths. But anytime there is this much movement in a windup, it can complicate things, and continues to prove the case right now as there's another pitch right there that looks really good but very narrowly misses.
That was the catcher C making his way to first base, and now McKee, the first baseman, will have an opportunity with 2 runners aboard. Pitch misses low, and Lee falls behind 2-0. You get the feeling this an important at-bat early. So walk would load the bases in the first.
And realistically, I mean, I would categorize Trajan Lee and Will Hellings really in the same grouping when it comes to this Trinity pitching staff. A couple guys that really want to overwhelm hitters.
Hit to short, could be 2, and it is. Lee gets out of the jam as we head to the bottom of the first, but we won't quite take a break because we want to explain the weather that's happening in South Texas currently. You probably can hear it through our microphones about how windy it is here. We've got gusts upwards of 15 miles per hour pretty consistently. So we'll chalk it up to making it feel like you're actually here, as you can truly experience how much wind there is today.
Yeah, I mean, I was out on campus here this morning, Cole, playing pickleball, and let me tell you, these are not the conditions in which you would like to be playing pickleball. It made for a terrible morning. I did go, I believe, 3-0 on the day, if anyone asks. I wasn't entirely phased. I had to make some adjustments. Wasn't on my game the way I normally would be. But that's what the great teams do. And that's what both teams here are going to have to do. They're going to have to play in these conditions. And really the concern, as it typically is at this stadium, is how is the wind going to carry the baseball out in the outfield? And truly it feels like the wind is at our back again today, like it was to an extent yesterday, just to a different degree. Really taking it up a notch here in San Antonio tonight, and these right-handed hitters probably going to be happy with that. Both pitchers on the mound, however, going to have to be cognizant and going to have to try and keep the ball on the ground.
Yeah, I would imagine not the conditions you want to be playing pickleball in. Of course, some pickleball courts within view from where we are on the roof of CalGuard Gym, just across the road from the football field. Recently installed. As the wind continues to come at our backs, just swirling round and round. As we wait for the bottom of the first to get going, we'll introduce the arm for St. Thomas. It's Caden Munson, making his 8th start of the year, comes in with an 0-4 record and an ERA of 6.28, but the campaign before that, 2.83 ERA, a 3.2 record back in 2022. Or back in 2023, I should say, but a bit of a down year so far. We'll see if he can turn it around in this game.
And one thing that we always like to highlight is the type of performances that these starting pitchers are coming off of. And for Munson, last time out, it's a similar story on what we talked about with Murray yesterday. Pretty solid performance, all things considered, on the mound. Just some errors made behind him defensively that ultimately inflate the production offensively for the other squad. 6 runs allowed in his last outing, but only 2 of them were earned in that one. We've already seen some errors and some plays where this turf in San Antonio has come into the picture made in this series. Both of these teams certainly in need of cleaning it up here today.
As he faces the leadoff man for the Tigers, Jack Peterson. Peterson takes strike 2. It was Peterson's home run into right field that made it a 4-0 lead in the second. Tigers would eventually win yesterday 6-0. As that pitch gets away and evens the count at 2 apiece.
And it was really a kind of deflating home run. We talked about it a lot on the broadcast. It was a scenario in which Trinity got their first runs with 2 outs on the board.
Grounded down the first base line, but foul.
It was those first runs coming across after Kai Tinker just dropped one in, a real blooper that fell in between a couple of defenders in the outfield. After that, Jack Baker singled home a couple, and then it was a pop-up, it felt like, off the bat of Jack Peterson that got out in right field, just hung up and kept carrying and carrying because of the wind. And ultimately, felt like it was a big difference in that game.
Swing and a miss, and Peterson strikes out. First strikeout of the day for St. Thomas, and there's 1 down in the inning.
And advantage on the mound goes to Caden Munson in that matchup of lefty v lefty. Doing a nice job of operating down and away from Peterson right there to get the job ultimately completed. I think like you'd anticipate with a lot of left-handers on the mound. The strikeout numbers have been very, very good across the past 2 years. Now in 29 full innings, he's up to 33 strikeouts on the season.
Is that number 2 hitter Pierce Matthews up in the batter's box? Matthews hasn't been in the lineup in this series yet, making his first appearance. Fouls that back near us, and it's 2-1.
And again, Coach Scannell opting for some substitutions, trying to take advantage of the matchup with the lefty on the mound. Pierce Matthews coming into the game as another right-handed hitter for this order.
Count now even at 2-2. Matthews hitting .235 on the season and stays alive as he fouls that off.
Really, the surprising thing is the youth with some of these right-handed bats that come into the lineup to face these left-handed hitters.
There's strike 3 down the chute. Back-to-back strikeouts for Munson, and there's 2 away.
I say that because Pierce Matthews in there today, joined as well by Diego Gomez, even Cal Coney, freshman, sophomore, being inserted here as opposed to the left-handed hitter that we talk about the most. On the other side, when there's righties on the mound, Alex Monson, the senior, stepping into that role, showing a lot of experience this season, hitting around .350 in his role on the other side of things. But freshman numbers not quite as good, but imagine they'll climb as their careers continue here at Trinity.
Lazera grounds it up the middle and through for the first hit of the day. A 2-out knock for Nick Lazera, and it'll bring up the cleanup hitter, Christian Holloway.
And realistically, Lazera is the type of guy that you imagine is just going to find a way to get on base as this season has progressed. One of the best hitters in this Trinity offense, but I don't think the batting average reflects that all that much. Still hitting better than 300 on the year, but it feels like a guy that could consistently hit around 400. Just hasn't had the ball fall the way you would anticipate right there. Still not a great piece of hitting. Rolls over the top of it, doesn't get a barrel, but a lot behind that baseball, and it sneaks through the middle of the infield.
As that pitch misses, it's 2-0 to Holloway with 2 down in the inning. Talked about it when Peterson was up. The Tigers did their damage in that second inning with 2 outs. Is grounded to second, and no damage done here. Nick Lazera gets on with a single, but Holloway can't bring him over. It ends the first inning as we head to the second on Tiger Network. Welcome back to San Antonio, Texas, as the wind continues to swirl here in the Alamo City. Will be the right fielder Gabe Garner up. hitting 400 on the year, making his first appearance of the season, and he takes strike one from Lee. Flared into shallow right, and it gets down. So Gardner already hitting 400 on the year. He'll improve that mark.
Yeah, and he rounded first base, and as he came back to the bag, meeting his first base coach right there, kind of gave the Michael Jordan shrug a little bit. Don't think that was the exact end goal in that at-bat. Regarding the trajectory of that batted ball, just a looper that falls in well ahead of Jack Peterson.
Grounded to short, could be two. Flip to second, throw to first, not in time. They do get the lead runner, though, and there's one away.
I think one way or another, Garner going to live with that base hit, especially so early on here in Game 2. It was a real struggle yesterday from that perspective for these St. Thomas Celts. Took them till, I believe it was the 8th inning, to find their first hit of the affair. Found a way to get on in other capacities. Going to more than likely need both here tonight if they want to muster a victory in this series.
It's now the shortstop Gerard Smith up. Still working with a runner on first base. It was Anderson who grounded into a fielder's choice. He waits on first as that pitch is fouled off to make it 0-2. And you mentioned that these Celts not getting that first hit until the 8th inning. It was the only hit they would get. Held to one hit by 3 different pitchers. Shavana working the first 7 innings and 2 outs of that game. And then it was Will Hellings and Zach Balbin to carry the Tigers the rest of the way to a 6-0 win. St. Thomas already with 1 on the hit board here in the 2nd inning. Swing and a miss. And Smith strikes out. There's 2 away.
Trajan Lee continuing to impress at the moment in this new role, starting off this game in San Antonio. Talked about it in the last half inning. Feel like he categorizes pretty well with Will Hellings, a couple of big right-handed arms in this Trinity bullpen that come into games and just try and overwhelm guys. And it really has to be a different approach when you're starting games and looking to eat up a lot of outs and a lot of innings. Don't want to overexert yourself in the early going. And right now, I feel like he's mixing pitches pretty effectively. It would look like a nice breaking ball in that last at-bat to ultimately get the swing and miss on the strikeout.
It's now Austin Schwartz up. Lee will check on the runner at first to no avail. Schwartz hitting 154 on the year. Hitting 8th today for St. Thomas. They'll check on him again. One-0 pitch. Fouled off to make it 1-1 with 2 down. Augie Anderson waiting on first, has not attempted a stolen base yet. There's strike 2. Swing and a miss, that's strike 3. And that ends the 2nd inning for Trajan Lee. He's through 2 as we head to the bottom of the 2nd. Trinity up to bat next. Welcome back. The wind continues to blow here in South Texas as Diego Gomez all set to lead off this bottom of the second for Trinity. He takes strike one. Gomez, not a regular starter for the Tigers, but he's made some appearances, particularly filling in for Brandon Nelson's role. Nelson dealing with a shoulder injury. He hasn't been able to play. It's hit foul down the right field line.
And Gomez just a little bit late on that one. Mentioned it, in and out of the lineup. Not the most consistent standing in the batter's box from that perspective. We'll take seeing a couple of pitches as he battled that one off to really feel comfortable in there, but he's shown some things in the limited at-bats he has had this year.
Able to foul that off and stay alive. High, and it brings the count to full.
And a good job one way or another right here, at least working this pitch count from Munson a little bit more so than Trinity was able to do so in the first.
Swing and a miss, strike three. Another strikeout for Munson. That's his third of the game, and there's one away.
And Munson, ultimately, really nice sequence to finish off this at bat. That final one elevating just a little bit and changing the eye level for the young hitter at the plate. Gomez recognizing fastball. Looked like velo was up just a tick, and ultimately he wasn't quite able to catch up with it, just swinging through that one for out number one.
It's now Cal Coney in the batter's box, another guy who's been more of a rotational pinch hitter type for Trinity this year, as Colt Harris gets a well-deserved day off. Coney fills in for him at second base. Fouled off, and it brings the count to 1-2. Fouls off the two-strike pitch, and he'll see another.
And it feels like there's been a lot of guys that have looked good at one time or another in the batter's box for this Trinity squad as Cal Coney continues to fight, fouls that one off towards the right side. No one up there that's looked absolutely lost at the plate this year. Talked about it in the last half inning. Lazara, a guy that you feel is going to get going eventually, just hasn't had balls fall his way. That remains true even with these guys that have been in and out of the lineup. They've put together a lot of impressive at-bats. It's just a matter of the end result not being exactly what they had hoped for.
Coney still working in a 1-2 count. Up the middle and caught by the second baseman. There's two away.
And of course that soft liner coming on a 1-2 count, but after Coney again shows some grit at the plate, fights off a number of pitches right there, extends it a little bit more in his fight against Munson, and ultimately that one doesn't get down, but a couple of nice at-bats to see a lot of pitches, and that time to put the ball in play.
So now the third baseman, Kai Tinker, up for the first time today. Hit down the line and foul, and quickly down 0-2. Tinker started in yesterday's game. Comes into this weekend hitting .268. Grounded to third. Throw across the diamond. In time. A great play made by Smith at third base as he's able to rob Tinker of a base hit. We'll head to the top of the third on Tiger Network when we come back. Top of the third in San Antonio. Trajan Lee back on the mound as he faces Israel Fields, the 9-hole hitter. Swing and a miss, strike one. We talked about the slump of Fields a little bit yesterday. Came into yesterday's game 1 for his last 21. And it didn't get much better. Not able to record a hit in last night's game.
And not the start that you want to see in this at-bat if you're trying to change that fortune.
0-2 pitch. Hit hard to center. Peterson charging in. Makes the catch. So close for Israel Fields. Can't catch a break as Jack Peterson slides in on the logo for out number 1.
And this one, proof of the wind continuing to change direction. You can see the flags out there blowing a little bit more right to left. I feel like it had an impact and kept this one from carrying out towards that logo. Peterson was playing pretty straight up. Regular depth out there, as right now he takes a couple of steps in.
Grounded to second, Coney handles it, and there's 2 away. Yeah, Luke, the wind swirling, continuing to go in different directions. There have been multiple times when I've looked to center field and I've seen the flags just blowing in different ways.
Yeah, they just are kind of doing this complete 360 out there over the course of the day. I'm sure they're going to be blowing pretty much in every cardinal direction. You go back to that last one off the bat of Fields, though. I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday. That's exactly the type of ball you want to see drop in that might have the kind of ripple effect to break you out of a slump. But Peterson with a little bit of a web gem. You saw the replay. Nice hustle coming in hard on that one. Put himself in a little bit of an awkward position, almost overrunning it and trying to flip his glove, but nice concentration to ultimately secure that baseball.
Trin grounded out a moment ago, and now it's the number 2 hitter, Bearden. Takes ball 3 away. .3-0 pitch from Lee. Outside, ball 4. A 4-pitch walk there, but through 3 innings so far, there's a lot to be impressed about with Trajan Lee's start.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is how competitive he has been up until really that at-bat. 4-pitch walk, not something that you ever want to see necessarily if you're cheering for the team in the field defensively. Not all that competitive right there, but aside from that at-bat, he's thrown majority strikes. And that's exactly what you want starting off.
So now C working with runner on first base. He takes ball 1. The catcher was hit by a pitch the last time he was up. And they'll check on Bearden.
And Bearden, with 2 outs on the board here in San Antonio, is just keeping those feet moving very consistently. He's trying to get the best jump he can.
That gets away, and Bearden takes second base, moving himself into scoring position.
And figured he was going to be moving sooner rather than later, and ultimately did so because of the passed ball right there. A little bit of an awkward circumstance. Certainly heard it glance off of something. I'm sure it had to have been Nick Lazara's glove, but was close on that one as it looked like Trajan Lee just missed a spot. Lazara set up on the outside part of the plate, a couple of consecutive pitches. That last one that got away, just leaking in on the hands.
See ahead, 3-0. There's strike 1. Get the feeling this is an opportunity for St. Thomas, who by this point yesterday was already down 4-0. So far hanging around in this game. Swing and a miss, strike 2, as Lee continues to battle back.
And maybe not as physically imposing as Will Hellings is, but still, I consider him a guy that comes out of the pen as a hard-throwing righty. But right now, it's that breaking ball that's working effectively for him.
Grounded to Tinker at third, and the play made in time to end the inning. So the Celts get a base runner, moving him into scoring position, but can't take the lead as we head to the bottom of the third on Tiger Network. Bottom of the third in South Texas as the shortstop Jack Baker leads things off for the Tigers, still in a 0-0 game. As Munson fires ball one. Check swing evens the count at 1-1. Baker hitting .264 coming into the weekend. An on-base percentage of .375. And he takes strike two.
Of course, he has this tendency falling behind in counts.
And not able to catch up that time. Swing and a miss from Baker as he heads to the dugout representing the first out of the inning.
Usually, like many of the other Trinity hitters in this order, does a very nice job of continuing to battle and fight pitches off right there. Thought very briefly he might have been able to do so, foul tip, but one way or another, even if he got a piece, looked like C behind the plate, secured it cleanly, and it's a strikeout quickly. Start the home half of the third for St. Thomas. And for Caden Munson, who is continuing to operate very effectively on the mound right now.
Munson in his third inning of work, so far scoreless. Grounded past the dive of Trin, and McDonald has a base hit, the 9-hole hitter reaching for the Tigers.
Exactly what you want from your 9-hole hitter right there. McDonald taking a minute over there at first base, reaches back and grabs his hamstring. Looks like he's going to stay out there, at least for the time being. I think that Matt McNaney, who's operated for most of the season as that first base coach, is trying to get attention over there in the dugout. A little bit of pause here as Coach Scannell's coming out on the field, just trying to figure out whether or not they'll need a runner to be inserted into this game, but ultimately looks like McDonald is good, maybe just cramping up a little bit at the moment.
McDonald will stay at first base, and it'll bring up Jack Peterson, the leadoff man. Struck out in his only at-bat today. Tries to drop down a bunt, but it goes foul. It's with one of the adjustments the Tigers have made recently in their lineup. Peterson usually was hitting 7 to 9, to begin the year, has moved to that leadoff spot in the last several weeks, and it's worked out well. They'll check on McDonald, who gets back.
And you think about the tendencies of this coaching staff and offense a season ago. Ty Preston, left-handed hitter in the batter's box. A lot of speed on the base paths. Guy that plays in the outfield for Trinity. He's been hurt for a lot of this year, but that's exactly the role that he played, or exactly the position that he held in this order. Hit leadoff for Trinity, and in some capacity maybe trying to imitate that just a little bit by moving the left-handed hitter and Jack Peterson into this one hole.
Pitch away, and it brings the count to 1-2. Preston had to leave yesterday's game, re-aggravating that quad injury he's been dealing with all year. Fielded, dives to first, and safe. Peterson able to beat out the infield hit. As Munson was over to field it, couldn't make the play in time.
Yeah, and it was Munson falling off the opposite direction towards the third base line that perhaps gets in the head of the infield just a little bit. For that reason, McKee was very quickly off the bag coming towards that baseball, and then two of them met in the middle with no one covering over there at first. With a bunt, you have the opportunity to put a play on, move that second baseman over, but with a full swing that was effectively a bunt right there, you don't have the same sort of opportunity defensively, and it comes back to hurt St. Thomas just a little bit.
McDonald almost caught at second base, as both McDonald and Peterson will jog in to talk to Coach Tim Scannell and Joey Deering, along with Pierce Matthews, who's currently up to bat. Not something you see too often. Here in the third inning, 1 out, 2 runners aboard.
Really a big-time job done by Jack Peterson in that last at-bat. Second time through the order for this Trinity offense, but it starts off with a left-handed hitter, and of course, mentioned it earlier, Munson with a little bit of an advantage in that sort of matchup to just put the ball in play and find your way on base. Pretty substantial, important right there. Now giving these right-handed hitters an opportunity a second time around, as they now have the advantage against the pitcher on the mound. Although an adjustment really needs to be made. It felt like most of these righties, if not all of them, were just a little bit late on their baseball first time up to the plate.
That's hit hard but foul. It makes the count 0-2. We see day in and day out how the lineup can fluctuate based on whether the other team is throwing a righty or a lefty, but Jack Peterson, one of the constant lefties in the lineup, almost never taking a day off despite who's throwing. Pitch low, and it brings it 1-2, a good count by Matthews, or a good take by Matthews.
Yeah, good take, but on a very competitive pitch, and it was C behind the plate who really didn't think twice about it, not trying to sell that one all that much, just receiving and giving straight back to his pitcher.
Grounded, could be 2, step on second. Throw to first in time to end the inning. Munson gets out of the jam. A double play for St. Thomas sends us to the 4th from San Antonio. Top of the fourth in San Antonio, Texas. Dylan McKee leads things off for St. Thomas, and he takes ball one. McKee grounded out into a double play the last time he was up, 6-4-3. And he takes strike one. Hit hard but foul. And it's 1-2. St. Thomas comes into this game with an 8-16 record. Currently 3-4 in conference play, counting the loss yesterday here in San Antonio. As that pitch misses to even the count at 2-2. St. Thomas under first-year head coach Torrey Peterson. Got to talk to him and ask him what it was like to guide this program for his first season. As that's hit foul down the left field line. Peterson saying it was a blessing to have this job. He was the assistant head coach for St. Thomas the last 2 seasons. Stepping into the main role as McKee waves at that. Another strikeout for Trajan Lee, and there's one down in the inning.
Lee continuing to make use of that breaking ball very effectively against these St. Thomas Celts. Always a difficult task to move from one role to another. Of course, talked about it in the early going. First start here in the 2024 campaign for Trajan Lee. I think certainly a confidence-boosting one. Been a lot of questions surrounding this bullpen and this staff from Trinity. There's been a host of injuries.
As that gets Gardner up high. Second hit by pitch handed out by Trajan Lee. There's a very painful way to take first base.
Yeah, I haven't been out here on the roof at the ballpark for a whole lot of calls, but one way or another, I don't see very many hit by pitches, even when we're broadcasting and calling games off of screens, that come off the body like a foul ball. That one traveled a good 40 feet probably back into the netting behind home plate. It was 2/3 of the way up the netting. That one got a lot of Garner.
And it garners him a trip to first base. So that's fouled off by Anderson. Anderson in the same exact situation he came up to bat the first time he was up, with Gardner on first. Last time he grounded into a fielder's choice. We'll see what happens this time. That pitch misses to make it 2-1. Lazara throws to first, not in time. It's a pitch missed to make it 3-1.
It's a pretty impressive pick down there at first base by Gomez. So we've seen Lazara willing to be very aggressive from a defensive perspective behind the plate. Throws behind runners a lot and tries to gun people down when they're attempting to steal bases as well, but it's not always worked out in Trinity's favor. It's been a difficult job connecting with these infielders. Not all the time have baseballs been snagged cleanly, and it's led to a lot of advancements on the base paths.
Pitch brings the count full. Still a runner on first, only one down in the inning. Trajan Lee's already thrown 3 scoreless, trying to make it 4. He's got to get 2 more outs. Runner goes, but full count pitch is fouled off, so we'll do it again.
I can see some activity in the Trinity dugout at the moment. Pitching coach Dave Smith talking with, I believe it's Jackson Tier, who's keeping track of this one in the dugout. Got the clipboard in his hands. A couple of arms warming in the bullpen for Trinity at the moment.
Runner goes again, but it won't matter. Ball 4 as Anderson earns a trip to first base, 2 aboard for the Celts.
With that, it'll warrant a trip out to the mound by pitching coach Dave Smith. And as good as Trajan Lee has been in this game so far, considering the fact that Trinity has only mustered 2 hits and hasn't given him any run support, imagine that in this new position, starting this baseball game, the leash will be a little shorter.
Lee threw 3 innings and 1 out of his outing. It's allowed the last 2 Celts to reach base. This is just a chat, not a change. It'll be Lee's inning going forward. Mentioned it earlier, Lee used to having runners in scoring position coming into difficult situations. We'll see how he handles this one.
Yeah, already we've seen him do a nice job just pitching to contact even with runners on. He's had a nice couple of ground balls induced that are very nearly double play territory.
Hit in the air. Playable in shallow center by Baker, who makes the catch. A big out for Trajan Lee.
He got 1 double play earlier, very nearly got a second. This time around doesn't need it. More soft contact on a fly ball that just stays in the infield. Opportunity for St. Thomas there to at least move the runners over if that foul ball, or that pop-up, I should say, gets to the outfield, but that one staying playable. Looked like infield fly was in effect right there, and Baker doing a nice job of hauling it in.
Bunted in the air. Lazara makes the catch, and it ends the inning. What a brutal way for it to end for St. Thomas. A pop-up and another one to follow it. They leave 2 stranded as we head to the bottom of the 4th. Still 0-0 between the Celts and Tigers. Bottom of the 4th, still a scoreless game between St. Thomas and Trinity as we are knee-deep into SCAC play at this point. And the catcher, Nick Lazara, comes up to the plate for the Tigers. Munson in his 4th inning of work. This still a game. And first pitch low for ball 1. But Luke, this isn't the only action happening around the SCAC. There's some other interesting scorelines happening today.
Yeah, pretty firmly into the slate of conference games, and I feel like at this point we now have a better understanding of where each squad and school is when it comes to that overall picture. At least I thought that was the case. Southwestern lost to Trinity weekend 1, took a game off these Tigers, and then they went and swept St. Thomas in weekend 2. St. Thomas squad who had swept Texas Lutheran in weekend 1. It felt like things were starting to fall into place, but all of a sudden today, Southwestern threatening to lose both games of a doubleheader to the University of Dallas, who was very quickly emerging as one of those favorites to maybe make that SCAC postseason tournament.
Did he go? Yes. And a frustrated Lazara will head back to the dugout without number 1. It didn't look like he went from here. We'll have to see it on the replay.
Yeah, and talk about it extensively. Catcher for Trinity usually displaying great plate discipline and awareness. You can see it from this angle. Certainly very, very close. Ultimately not getting the call that time around, and Trinity will again be getting inning with an out on the board.
Strike called to Christian Holloway, who grounded out to second the last time he was up. That pitch misses from Munson, but you talked about the SCAC and how interesting it's going to be with TLU not looking like the same team that we've seen in years past. Of course, plenty of time for them to get going again. That's grounded to short, but not playable, and Holloway reaches. We'll see if that's credited as an error or a hit, but I would say probably a hit.
Yeah, I think you'd be right with that estimate. Schwartz doing everything he could to get over there from his spot at shortstop and got a little bit of leather on it, so it has to bring things into question. But even if he fields this one cleanly, he had gone to the ground. He's going to have to pick himself up and try and make this throw.
So Diego Gomez, the first baseman, waves at the first pitch. Gomez struck out the last time he was up. He works with Holloway on first base. But another interesting result in the SCAC, Schreiner splitting with Centenary today. Of course, Trinity familiar with both Schreiner and Centenary, having played both of them already this season. Still a series to go out in Shreveport, Louisiana. So they'll check on Holloway at first, who dives back safely.
Yeah, and I think it makes you feel a little bit better about the fact that Schreiner took a game off of you in last weekend's series in Kerrville, especially in the context of Jackson Tier coming back, throwing 4 innings.
As Gomez is pegged by that, he'll make the trip to first, and there's 2 Tigers aboard for the first time all game.
Gomez, who didn't have the easiest of at-bats in his first time in the batter's box, certainly will help his team out any way that he can, but a couple of hit-by pitches that have been of a much harder, painful variety here in San Antonio today. No glancing blows. These are catching hitters pretty squarely. One way or another, it's provided a nice opportunity in the home half of the 4th for this Trinity offense.
It's Calcone up with 2 runners on. I should correct myself. This is the second time the Tigers have had this type of opportunity. Coney 0 for 1 today. He lined out to second. Throw off the backside, not in time. The wind seems to have shifted here temporarily, blowing in now. Maybe some misfortune for Calcone. Pitch away, and it's 1-1.
I feel like we have to continue talking about these results. Of course, last night, series getting underway. Just this one in San Antonio, and Centenary and Schreiner starting in Kerrville. Centenary got a win last night and then split today.
Hit in the air, and the catch made by Trin in the outfield grass. There's 2 down in the inning.
All other series in the SCAC getting started today. That Dallas and Southwestern affair being played in Georgetown. Again, game 1 went final. I believe started around 1 o'clock today. Dallas winning that one. Final score of 9-6, a game in which Southwestern committed 5 errors. Imagine that played a pretty big impact in that one.
There's strike 1 to Kai Tinker. You talk about all the errors we've seen in the conference. Some errors yesterday by both teams in this game. That's high, making it 1-1. But all of a sudden, the University of Dallas making themselves known with this series. Not a team that's been in the picture in the past, trying to change that this year. That's hit in the air to right. And the catch made. That ends the inning. Tigers leave 2 stranded. We head to the 5th, still scoreless from South Texas. Welcome back to the Alamo City, as we're here for SCAC play between the University of St. Thomas and Trinity University. First pitch from Lee outside for ball 1 to Israel Fields. Still trying to break out of his slump. Hitless yesterday, hitless today, as Jack Peterson took his first hit in a while away from him. Fouls it off to make it 1-2. Trajan Lee still out there in his 5th inning of work, and he's done all that the Tigers could have asked from him, making his 2nd career start with Trinity. So far, just throwing up a lot of zeros.
He's been quite impressive as he starts now his 5th frame of work here on the campus of Trinity University. Pitch count right about 60 pitches. As he gets Fields to swing right through that one, a fastball of a little bit of higher velocity variety right there, getting it right past Fields and putting him again in a 2-strike count.
2-2 pitch fouled off, and Fields will see another.
But even with 60 pitches, feels like a little bit of a concerning pitch count perhaps, considering his typical role out of the bullpen, not a guy that throws this number of offerings.
Lined and caught. Cal Coney at second base takes one away from Fields, and he cannot catch a break.
Yeah, pretty spectacular play by Cal Coney, and I might sound unenthusiastic because I'm kind of just in shock, utter disbelief at the fortune of Israel Fields in the batter's box this weekend. A couple of balls that you assume are surely going to get down, and just web gym plays defensively from Trinity. First, Jack Peterson in center field. That time, Cal Coney making it look pretty routine out there at second base for a guy who doesn't play there defensively every day.
Hey, you can hit it anywhere, but don't hit it to Coney Island. As Lee works with one out, grounded back to Coney Island as he fires it for out number 2.
That's a pretty quick announcer's jinx right there, Cole. Exact opposite of what you told them to do. You have a pretty solid understanding. Maybe need to have a conversation with these St. Thomas Celts before they step into the batter's box. You knew they shouldn't hit it to Cal Coney, but they hit it to Cal Coney.
Right after I said it. I think it's the wind. It's interfering with their ability to hear me from up here. As quickly 2 away. And Bearden has to duck out of the way of that one.
Yeah, that one likely would have gotten him in that helmet. And while we've seen these batters willing to take some hit by pitches to help their team out. I think Bearden making the wise decision, again doing so right there, is looks like Trajan Lee's just trying to find him. A couple pitches missing arm side, unfortunately, after Trajan Lee's gotten a nice start here to the top of the 5th frame. Just 1 out away. Certainly doesn't want to put a runner on to complicate things for him.
2-0 pitch. Outside 3-0. Are we playing baseball or are we doing the limbo? I think that's what Bearden's wondering. His acrobatics might earn him a less painful trip to first base. But not yet, as Lee fires strike 1.
And a good spot here to just rely on that fastball if you're Trajan Lee on the mound. Probably the pitch you have the best control over in a situation with 2 outs on the board where you're not too concerned about getting hurt.
Outside edge, and Bearden, possibly confused, will have to step back into the batter's box.
Yeah, it certainly opens the door now. 3-2 count, 2 strikes on the scoreboard to go with whatever offering. But I assume you just got to go right back to that fastball considering the way it's worked.
Fouled off. And we'll do it again at 3-2. Wind continuing to swirl here in San Antonio. The flags moving pretty much to where they were. Of course, as I say that, they go directly in from center field. 3-2 pitch. Outside, ball 4. And he loses Bearden.
Yeah, and it looked like Lee was just trying to adjust, maybe trying to hit a spot a little too narrow right there. Threw that fastball, just trying to hit the zone a couple of times consecutively. Once he got 2 strikes on Bearden, hitter did a nice job of just battling something off. And in response to that, Lee trying to hit a spot, misses just a little bit to the outside and puts a runner on.
Dave Smith will come to the mound, and it looks like that will be it for Trajan Lee. He goes 4.2 into his first start of the year and hangs up 4 zeros. Responsible for Bearden at first base, as a pitching change will occur in San Antonio. We'll take a break on Tiger Network. New arm in for the Tigers. It's Jonathan Newman who comes in with a very impressive ERA of .59. That is the best on the team, as you might imagine. As he fires ball one to Mason Say, the catcher. Or Mason C, I should say. Checks on the runner, dives back safely. Newman comes into this game with 2 down in the inning and working with a runner, Bearden, on first. Strike one.
Man, again, Bearden stands over there at first base with 2 outs on the board, continuing to keep those feet moving. Imagine that he could be on the move, on the base paths.
Swing and a miss, strike 2.
But the opportunity to send him just dwindling now.
Bearden has attempted 12 stolen bases this year. He's been caught 3 times. 1-2 pitch. Foul back near us, and we'll do it again.
Newman doing a nice job coming in and just immediately throwing strikes right now.
Trying to send us to the bottom of the 5th, still scoreless. Grounded to Baker. It's going to have to be a good throw, and not in time. A base hit for C, and there's 2 Celts aboard.
Yeah, and Baker spikes this throw from his spot deep in the hole out there at short, but it was a H that flashed on the scoreboard. I think one way or another, in those circumstances, C was going to reach pretty easily. That one just too deep, and we've already seen this weekend, C runs pretty well even for a catcher. Imagine that Baker, in the process of throwing that one, probably had some second thoughts as he was moving around, resulting in a ball that skipped in a couple of times over there to Gomez at first base. Ultimately, Trinity probably a little lucky that that one stayed in front of him and these runners stay on first and second respectively.
Newman ahead 0-2 to the first baseman, McKee. McKee 0 for 2 today, struck out the last time he was up. Ball high, and it's 1-2. I think it's safe to say this is not the batter that Trinity would have picked to face in this situation. 2 runners on for the Celts. An opportunity to take their first lead of the series. Away, and it's 2-2.
Certainly a higher pressure situation for Trinity arm. Jonathan Newman on the mound at the moment. But with the way that St. Thomas has swung it in the past 2 days, don't want to mess around any further. Baseball that kind of just got placed in the hole, and unfortunately a play couldn't be made on it. Good time to just come right back at the hitter.
Hit to right. McDonald charges in and makes the catch to end the inning. Jonathan Newman comes in and collects the final out. That sends us to the bottom of the 5th in San Antonio. Bottom of the fifth, Caden Munson out there for his fifth inning of work. He'll face Jack Baker, hitting eighth today. It's Baker's second time up. He struck out the last time he came up to bat. Still a 0-0 game as Baker rips that into left, and it falls into the gap, rolling towards the wall. Baker with a stand-up lead-off double to get this inning going.
Not wasting any time, and finally we see a Trinity right-handed hitter step into the batter's box ready to swing it. Gets his foot down on time, barrels this baseball up, and drives it to the pull side. Mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, a lot of late swings, foul balls the opposite direction. That time, timing much better for Jack Baker, and Trinity threatening very quickly here in the fifth.
Pinch hitter in now, it's Caleb Woodward, who's a defensive substitution in the last half inning for Maddox McDonald. Woodward puts it into left, it falls. Ball gets by the outfielder, Baker being waved around, he scores easily. Woodward charging in for three, dives in safely. It'll be an RBI double for Caleb Woodward. He advances to third on the error.
Yeah, and this is just great heads-up base running from really both members of this Trinity offense. Woodward not slowing down at all, and the base path's right there, gunning for three the entire time when he recognizes this one skips over Bearden out there in left field. Talked about it yesterday. This turf has been a problem defensively for some squads, and especially with the way it can ricochet and bounce much higher deflections. That's exactly what we saw right there.
As the leadoff man, Jack Peterson up. Still no outs in the inning. Baker and Woodward back-to-back doubles. Woodward advancing to third base, and he waits there for the leadoff man. Swing and a miss from Peterson makes the count 1-2. Jack Baker coming across to score the first run of the game. Trinity up 1-0. Take strike three. And there's one down in the inning.
And Jack Peterson goes down looking right here, just frozen on that delivery from Caden Munson. And Peterson, a hitter that likes things middle away more often than not, a guy that is hugging the front of the batter's box almost every time he steps up to the plate. That one very well located, middle in, and didn't have any opportunity as he didn't get those hands started early to get that barrel all the way through and try and fight that baseball off.
Swing and a miss from Pierce Matthews, the two-hole hitter. Still working with Woodward on third. Steps out and takes ball one. The Tigers jumped out to an early lead in yesterday's game, scoring 4 in the bottom of the second. Swing and a miss from Matthews, 0-2. Tigers trying to make this their big inning. An opportunity to do so. Already up 1-0 with only one out on the board. Swing and a miss. Strike three. Back-to-back strikeouts for Munson as he's bounced back in the bottom of the fifth.
And it seemed like the recipe tried to stay the same for the Trinity offense and these right-handed hitters right there. Baker came up, the leadoff at bat. Timing was absolutely perfect. Got out in front of something and drove it into the pull side gap. That time Pierce Matthews was well out of front of a couple of pitches, and it seemed like Munson did a great job of just recognizing that and feeding off of it. Continued to throw those same deliveries, and Pierce Matthews just couldn't make the adjustment, didn't sit back there. Again, off balance and well out ahead of that last one that struck him out.
St. Thomas head coach Torrey Peterson coming out to talk to his starter. Again, Munson making his 8th start of the year, came in with an ERA above 6. But an outing today that should lower it. Munson up to 80 pitches on the evening. This is just a chat and not a change. He will remain out there with 2 outs on the board, as he'll face Trinity's catcher hitting over 300 at this point in the year, Nick Lazara.
And Lazara going down his last at-bat, that strikeout on what was a check swing. Not sure that he was all that happy about the end result of that at-bat, and I'm sure has some transgressions that he'd like to take out on a baseball this time around, especially with that runner out there in scoring position.
Takes ball 1 inside. Lazara 1 for 2 today. He singled the first time he was up, struck out the last time he was up. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Woodward still waiting on third base, as he has been for the last 2 at-bats. Represents an insurance run for Trinity. Hit hard to center, but the catch made to end the inning. Promised to be a big inning for Trinity. They only plate 1, but they take the lead here in San Antonio as we head to the top of the 6th on Tiger Network. Top of the 6th inning in the Alamo City. Jonathan Newman set for his first full inning of work, as he'll face Garner. 1 for 1 in this game. Hot shot to third, picked by Tinker. The line out is out, number 1 on the first pitch of the inning.
At least this time around, you didn't tell them to not hit the baseball at Kai Tinker. They didn't have a warning. Arguably the best defensive infielder amongst a group that have been very, very impressive on the entire year. Quick reaction time from Kai Tinker out there at third base on a ball that hangs up there. Looked like it was going to continue to fade away from him, but one way or another, lucky to snag that, as these bullpens and the cutouts down each foul line play pretty awkwardly, especially with the concrete bases on them that create some pretty gnarly kicks.
0-2 pitch from Newman, low, and it's 1-2 to Anderson, who walked the last time he was up. You know, I did not give a warning to not hit it to Kai Tinker, but maybe he just did, as that's grounded to Coney, who makes the play for out number 2.
Newman doing a nice job now working with the bases cleared. Much lower pressure situation, doing what he's done very well all year long, and that's just pitch to contact. You saw when he came into the game, of course, Cole, you highlighted that ERA down around just 0.5 on the season, but his whip is still up over 1, about 1.3 coming into this one.
Grounded to Tinker and past the third baseman. It takes a hard ricochet out of the bullpen in left, and Anderson cruises into second with a double. Still 2 outs on the board.
And it's because he comes in and he's willing to get hit. This one a breaking ball that just hangs up, and a nice job. Anderson just keeping that one, hugging the line right there. Kind of an odd kick out there in the corner. It didn't hit that cutout, but kind of as it was sliding along that wall, caught something that put it back into the field of play where it just died down a little bit.
First pitch from Newman, strike one. Smith in the batter's box, an opportunity with the runner in scoring position to potentially tie this game. Might be to his benefit that a sudden gust of wind is pushing out into left field. He takes that for ball one. And Dave Smith gonna come out to talk to Newman. What do you think they're talking about here, Luke?
I think just trying to slow this thing down more than anything else. That last ball spiked well out in front of home plate. Lazaro doing a nice job of getting his body on it and keeping it in front of himself. Realistically, another important aspect of this, I have to note, no one warming in the Trinity bullpen, at least no one throwing. There's a little bit of movement out there, but no one close to coming in relief of Jonathan Newman, although I don't think that's all that necessary. A couple of well-barreled baseballs from this St. Thomas squad in this half inning, but still with 2 outs on the board, just one runner on out there at second base and a lead in this ball game, I think you're in a pretty comfortable spot, although you definitely want to be trying to keep that one-run lead intact as much as possible.
Working in the bottom of the order now. Smith, the 7-hitter today, swings away from that one. It's fouled off to make it 1-2. Two outs on the board, a runner on second. Tigers still with a 1-0 lead. Fouled off. Hit hard into the Tiger bullpen, and it looks like everybody's okay over there.
And I'm sure someone might have worn that on the backside. Everyone, of course, cognizant coming at their faces. They all ducked, and then a pretty hard ricochet off the back wall in that dugout.
Of course, our cameraman, Reed Rosales, also in that dugout. So, you know, he's been hit by a bat in his employment with Tiger Network, coming out of the hands of somebody in his first year here, and thankfully we're not going to add a baseball to the list. 2-2 pitch from Newman. In for strike three. Newman gets out of the jam, a scoreless sixth, as the Tigers will come up to bat up 1-0 here on Tiger Network. Sun beginning to set in San Antonio as we're all set for the bottom of the 6th inning. Christian Holloway will lead things off for the Tigers in a 1-0 game. Holloway 1 for 2 today. He singled the last time he was up, and he'll face Munson for the 3rd time today. The St. Thomas starter fires strike 1. As he remains in this game, his 6th inning of work, and it's been quite the day for him.
Realistically, quite the weekend for this staff. Murray yesterday, outside of really exclusively the bottom of the 2nd inning, was spectacular. And even then, while those runs did come across as earned, feel like an asterisk should probably be put on him. Ball that fell in, while it wasn't an error technically, it really felt like that at the moment. Munson, of course, picking up right where his counterpart left off. 2 really young arms that you're a Celt fan watching back in Houston, you should be quite excited about.
Holloway rips that to right. Diving play past the dive. As Holloway sprints to second, he'll have a chance at 3, and he's going for it. Throw in plenty of time. Holloway thrown out, digging in for a triple, and that's how the first out of the board on the board is recorded.
It was an interesting effort in the first place out in right field by Garner. No outs on the board and really nothing threatening. This is a ball that if you keep it in front of you, you're certainly limiting Christian Holloway to just 1 bag. This is really the next best scenario, is somehow you find a way to throw him out on the base paths. Holloway, not the speediest guy in this Trinity offense, put his head down pretty quickly. I don't know. I wasn't watching over there at third base. Coach Deering has 2 hands on his face at the moment. Don't know if he put the stop sign up or not, but can't imagine he's too thrilled with the end result right there.
As it brings up Diego Gomez, 250 hitter on the year, getting the start at first base today. Fouled off into the screen to make it 2-2. Well, if Holloway was going to get 3 on that, he had to make up his mind immediately. He did so, just not enough time. Gets away. And it's a 3-2 count.
Yeah, and it was a big spot for Trinity, or at least would have been even with Holloway just at second base. You imagine the way that this offense has been willing to play small ball. You're likely trying to just bunt him over and then with 1 out on the board, have a couple of opportunities to drive him in.
Gomez works the 1-out walk. He's at first base, and it brings up Cal Coney. Coney 0 for 2 today. He popped out the last time he was up. He's also lined out to his counterpart at second.
Looks like there will be a change on the base paths as well right here.
And it looks like that is the pitcher Kyle Russa coming in to pinch run. That doesn't appear to be Kyle Russa, actually. This looks like a substitution wearing his jersey. Dives back safely. Ball high to Coney. Now in a 1-0 count. Tigers trying to get some insurance in this game. Scored their first run, their only run in the bottom of the 5th inning. Opportunities to add on to that since then, just haven't been able to. As Munson has kept his team in this game. Some kind of delay occurring with the umpires. It looks like they gave a pitch clock violation as Coney fouls that off. I believe the count is now 2-2. but I assume they said his Coney didn't step into the box soon enough. Fires strike 3, and Coney goes looking. So Coney doesn't step into the box as soon as he needs to. That's strike 1, and the next 2 come pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, and a tough situation for this Trinity offense here in the home half of the 6th. Some unlucky breaks. Just the second time we've seen that pitch count violation. Cal Coney getting the short end of the stick on that one. Ultimately, 2 outs on the board that have been in some form or fashion gifted to this St. Thomas team. Certainly their job has been made easier in this half inning.
As Kai Tinker comes up to bat for the 3rd time today, he's 0 for 2, flew out to right the last time he was up. Runner on first, 2 down in the inning. Hit deep to right. The catch made, and that ends the 6th. The 0 put up on the scoreboard by St. Thomas once again, still 1-0 as we head to the 7th in San Antonio. Top of the 7th, Jonathan Newman back on the mound for the Tigers. As some fascinating news as Israel Fields steps into the batter's box. It was actually Kyle Russa pinch running. Fields taps that foul as he attempted to bunt it, but an interesting move putting the pitcher into pinch run. I guess they see something in practice that maybe we don't.
A little dumbfounded by it. I do admit that they have a better knowledge base about their players than I do, but it is still hard to fathom that Kyle Russa would come into this game to pinch run. Didn't see him on the move or anything of that variety, but would love to see it again and really put that to the test.
Yeah, I want to, now that I know that it's Kyle Russa, I wish they would have sent him. 0-2 pitch from Newman, swing and a miss, strike 3. As Israel Fields still can't get a hit, 0 for 3 today.
But an important first out right there. Fields continuing to hit in the 9 spot for the Celts and St. Thomas. Seen him a couple of times come up to the plate, an opportunity to get a leadoff base runner on, turn things over for this St. Thomas offense. He's just been unable to do so, and it's been the 1, 2, 3 hitters after the fact that have been forced to operate in the batter's box with an out already on the board.
So the leadoff man, Alex Trin, up. Trin 0 for 2 today. He's walked, grounded out to his counterpart Coney at second base the last 2 times. As he fouls that back in the screen to make it 2-1. We've talked about how good Jonathan Newman has been throughout this year. His ERA continuing to drop at around half a run per 9 innings now. Pitch misses inside, it's 3-1, but that's part of the reason that we saw Trajan Lee start this game today, is that they feel comfortable with Jonathan Newman at this back end of the bullpen. A good option for them late in games. Late strike called, and Trin gets the bad news halfway down the baseline. Has to get his bat handed back to him, and it's a full count.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but usually in a strike call, it's a pretty sharp point. That one pretty loose, pretty lax from the home plate umpire. Kind of gesturing, kind of just, I don't even know what to say.
Like, as opposed to like strike, it's like a
Strike.
It was like casual.
It was quite casual, and one way or another, the end result will be the same, and I think that's probably for the best.
Trin does head to first base, works his second walk of the game. Seen a lot of weird things in this game, Luke.
Yeah, it's been a pretty odd one. I mean, the series as a whole, of course, have to send it back to when Matthew McNaney got hit by a foul ball yesterday, popped right back up. His spot over there as the first base coach.
Trin waits on first base. Bearden in to hit for the fourth time today. He's walked the last 2 times he's been up. He'll check on Trin, who dives back safely. It's Newman continuing to work in this one. Ahead 0-1. Working through the top of this St. Thomas lineup. He's only mustered 3 hits today, better than they did yesterday. Only 1 hit throughout that game. Pitch away, and it's 1-1. Celts having dropped a lot of games recently. Swept last weekend. They swept TLU the weekend before that, but prior to that series had lost 7 consecutive games. Trin goes, but that pitch fouled off to keep it at 1-2.
And Newman again operating ahead in this at-bat. Good spot for him on the mound. Good opportunity to update everyone at home on some other scores around the league.
Just missed 2-2.
Of course, talked about the fact that the University of Dallas was threatening to take both games of a doubleheader against Southwestern. They were ahead 3-1 in the 8th. Southwestern came back and tied that one at 3-3. Dallas got a couple more to make it a 5-3 advantage. Southwestern again evening things up.
Newman locates that pitch. That's strike 3. Bearden heads back to the dugout, and 2 outs on the board.
Good job. Newman right there just freezing Bearden with that pitch on the lower half of the zone. Bearden has proved to be a tougher out in this St. Thomas order. Struggled in many spots outside of him, but finally getting him to sit down in the dugout again. As Jonathan Newman just 1 out closer to getting back into this Trinity home dugout.
Catcher Mason C. up. Still working with Trin on first. Fouled back, it's 0-1. But I got to talk to Coach Dave Smith about the resurgence of Jonathan Newman. It's been a bumpy first 3 years for him. Hasn't quite found his footing, but seems to have grabbed a stronghold of what he wants to do this year. And he compared it to Cade McGahan. Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2. McGahan, a starting pitcher for the Tigers last year, who made all conference, but didn't really find his footing in his first 3 years. But as a senior, cemented his role on this team, and Newman doing a similar thing.
Yeah, and pretty impressive to find a weekend starter last year in the form of McGahan.
Runner goes. Throw not in time. As Coney, I guess, didn't apply the tag in time. We'll see it on the replay.
Yeah, and from that angle, don't see him apply the tag at all. Good job. Staying on the far side of the bag right there, didn't go straight into it, and ultimately a big reason that Coney couldn't whip all the way around to get that final out of the inning.
That'll be the day for Jonathan Newman. Dave Smith comes to make a pitching change. As we'll take a break on Tiger Network, 2 down in the top of the 7th. New Armin for the Tigers. It's Will Hellings, who pitched last night through 1.1 innings in relief of Joseph Shavana. Comes in with a 1-0 record, a 3.5 ERA, and averages a strikeout per inning pitched. Comes into this game with a 1-2 count and 2 outs on the board. Fires strike 3, and that is the inning. Hellings had one job to do, and he does it very quickly. We head to the bottom of the 7th, still 1-0 Trinity here in South Texas. Back for the bottom of the 7th here on the campus of Trinity University. Jack Baker leads things off for the Tigers, still facing Caden Munson out for his 7th inning of work. When he fires strike one, Baker came across to score the only run of the game so far. The Tigers leading this one 1-0. Hit to right. It could fall, and it will, but foul. As Baker was already at second base by the time that signal was made, and he'll have to go back to the batter's box.
We'll get a great angle of it here on this replay coming from the dugout, or no, we won't.
No, we will not.
He was really close down there, and perhaps you can say that McKee, first baseman who was tracking back, trying to snag it, might have obstructed the view of the field umpire just a bit, but even then, the field umpire was pretty close, playing out there on that first base foul line.
Fouled back, keeps it 0-2. I guess we'll never know. Jack Peterson walking in front of the camera. Hit to right, caught. One down in the inning.
And Munson continuing to be very impressive. On the bump for the Celts, both starting pitchers this weekend have been absolutely phenomenal. Murray yesterday, and Munson, who came into this one with some more elevated, inflated numbers. That ERA at the beginning of today's game was over 6, but rest assured has dropped steadily as we've continued here on the campus of Trinity.
As Caleb Woodward takes ball 1 to even the count at 1 apiece. Swing and a miss. Strike 2. Some news around the SCAC. Southwestern has come back to beat the University of Dallas 6-5. So splitting the early part of that series. Two teams that could potentially be in the conference tournament with Trinity should all three of those teams continue to do what they've been doing.
Yeah, pretty big game to get back and at least keep the series victory in the realm of possibility.
Woodward gets hit, he heads to first, and the Tigers will have a man aboard with 1 down. Another hit by pitch in this game.
That 9-hole continuing to do its job for Trinity tonight. Earlier, it was Maddox McDonald who started in that role. He singled in his first at-bat of the day. Now Woodward, the replacement, gets on board. Might be with 1 out, but in really all circumstances, Caleb Woodward, a big threat to be on the move on the base paths.
Peterson takes ball 1. Woodward stays where he is despite the ball in the dirt. Peterson struck out the last time he was up. He's 1 for 3, has a single in this game and a home run from yesterday. Woodward on first base, the 4th batter to be hit by a pitch today. 2 by each side.
Woodward hugging the bag really closely right there. Munson giving a nice check over, but plenty of time. Anticipate will take a little bit of a larger lead.
Peterson pulls back the bunt, makes it 2-0. As we know, Jack Peterson's such a dynamic player. Can bunt and reach and has done it quite frequently.
One way or another, the level of attention that he's garnering over there at first base. It's certainly distracted from the matter at hand. The bat in the batter's box. Jack Peterson ahead in this count 2-0 might not have the opportunity to put a bunt down if things continue the way they have so far.
Tries to do it there, pops it up, and the catch made by Munson. So very unusual result from Jack Peterson attempting a bunt.
Yeah, not exactly what I meant when I said the inability to put a bunt down. Very nearly did in a very unorthodox way. A good job by Munson as he was kind of stumbling uneven ground falling off the back of the mound to just keep his footing and haul that one in. Otherwise, it could have been big-time trouble.
As they'll pick off Woodward, ball dropped, and the first year slides into second safely. And it looks like a discussion occurring between Munson and McKee after that.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, Munson displayed a little bit of emotion when he sees this one get dropped by his first baseman. And I think he just recognized his reaction, not exactly what you need out there. If you're his first baseman trying to help him out. I think just trying to pick his teammate up in that scenario, a couple of words of encouragement to just right things right there.
Torrey Peterson will come out. We'll see if this is the day for Munson, who's done so well to keep his team in this game. 2 outs into the 7th inning. And he's going to roll with his starter. Munson remains on the mound to face Pierce Matthews, the left fielder today, hitting second. He's 0 for 3. Struck out twice against Munson. Works with Woodward on second. They'll try and get him on the backside as Woodward dives back safely.
And there's been 2 meetings on the mound with Munson without a change. I believe it's that third one. If the coaching staff comes back out, a change will have to be made, but have to like the end result of the at-bats against Pierce Matthews, at least to this point. Even then, he's a guy that can hurt you. I've alluded to the power in his bat. And the 4th time through the order, imagine that there's some adjustments to be made right here.
Strike 2. Munson 1 strike away from potentially getting out of this inning. Count is actually 2-1. And now 3-1.
Yeah, I think that last offering was very, very close, and it garnered some excitement from the dugouts. I think Trinity had a lot to say about it because it was close, and it was a good take from Matthews. I think St. Thomas wanted that call in order to get them 1 strike closer.
Inside, ball 4. And Matthews reaches with 2 outs.
Unfortunate break for Munson, because I think even us here on the broadcast were fooled by that delivery in the outside part of the plate. Spotted it very, very well. And while it wasn't a spot given to the pitchers yesterday, I feel like the home plate umpire has been a little bit more lenient in awarding it as a strike here in this one tonight.
And now a change will be made. Munson's day is done. He leaves this game responsible for the 2 runners aboard for Trinity, keeping his team in this one. Only 1 earned run to his name. A pitching change for St. Thomas. We'll take a break and be back on Tiger Network. back in San Antonio, Texas. Luke Sebesta takes the mound for the University of St. Thomas, comes in with a 2-3 record, making his 8th appearance. 6 of those were starts, but he comes in from the bullpen to face Nick Lazzara with 2 down and 2 on for Trinity. And he fires strike 1.
And just 1 out needed to get out of this inning. But the hardest out to get, more than likely, when it comes to this Trinity lineup.
Lazzara over a 300 hitter. 1 for 3 today. Singled the first time he was up. Since then, he struck out and flown out to center. Inside 2-1.
And first opportunity for Lazzara to step into the batter's box on the opposite side of the plate in this one. Switch hitter for Trinity. Really feels equally as dangerous no matter which of the 2 boxes he's standing in.
Fouled off, 2-2. Caden Munson leaving this game. 6.2 innings pitched. On the hook for the loss, despite how well he's done keeping his team in this game. Sebesta trying to get St. Thomas out of this inning. Outside, full count.
You knew it wasn't going to be easy, and you knew that more than likely you're going to have to come right at Nick Lazzara. Not a guy that strikes out very frequently, again displaying his understanding of the strike zone.
Inside, ball 4, and it loads the bases.
More than likely, the best result that you're going to get in that at-bat is a walk against Nick Lazzara. He's a guy that will make you pay if you leave something too significantly over the heart of the plate. Find a way to put the barrel on it. Outside of that, you're really not going to get him to chase.
The walk loads the bases for Christian Holloway. So it doesn't get any easier for Sebesta, the cleanup hitter. 2 for 3 in this game, has singled and doubled in his last 2 at-bats. Hit to right, and the catch made to end the inning. Sebesta fired up as he heads back to the dugout. Still 1-0 as we head to the top of the 8th. More work for Will Hellings in the top of the 8th as he faces the cleanup hitter for St. Thomas, Dylan McKee.
And this frame's going to take more than just 1 pitch. All it was required in the last half inning.
Hit in the air, playable, and the catch made. by Hastings in foul territory for out number 1.
Yeah, a little bit more experience coming into the ball game over there at first as Hastings replaces the starter in Diego Gomez. That experience paying off right there. Again, just some weird architecture and layout of this field. Bullpen, not the bullpen, the dugout certainly coming into play that time around. Hastings, who stands in around 6'3", 6'4", big frame, certainly paying dividends for him right there as he ranged over and made that one pretty easily.
1 down in the top of the 8th, nobody on, a 1-1 count to Garner. As Garner fouls that off into the Tiger dugout. We mentioned it earlier, Hellings pitched yesterday. Went 1.1 innings. Going a bit longer today as he fires that high and inside to even the count at 2-2.
And in yesterday's contest, when he came in, we alluded to his last time out in San Antonio when he took on East Texas Baptist. That game where in the 9th inning, things were out of hand in favor of the Trinity Tigers. A home run got hit.
Strike 3. Hellings gets him looking, and there's 2 down in the 8th.
And it's because he has such impressive velocity. And it felt like in that at-bat, St. Thomas hitters were certainly cognizant after having seen him yesterday that they were going to need to be early, going to need to get out in front. Try to do so just a little bit too far out in front, rolling over, sending a couple foul in that at-bat, and ultimately just couldn't win the battle. And now Hellings is just 1 out away from getting out of the 8th.
Augie Anderson up with 2 down in the inning, takes that pitch to even the count at 1-1. Anderson doubled the last time he was up. Fouls that off, 1-2.
But again, allude to that home run in that circumstance because of the fact that Will Hellings is in this ball game with just a 1-run advantage. A single swing of the bat could certainly turn things around here.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Lazara has to throw to first, does so in time. To end the inning, a 1-2-3 worked by Will Hellings. As we head to the bottom of the 8th, Tigers trying to add on to their 1-0 advantage. Bottom of the 8th, Corson Hastings set to lead things off for Trinity, making his first plate appearance of the night. Tigers trying to get some insurance, only up 1-0. As Hastings takes ball 1, they left him loaded the last time They were up to bat. Still the one lone run on the scoreboard for either side. Strike called. Low 2-1. Hastings a .273 hitter on the year. .394 slugging. Outside 3-1. So far, the patient approach working for Hastings.
Yeah, not something that we've seen very frequently in this one. Leadoff runners get aboard for this Trinity offense.
Hit deep, but foul. And it's 3-2.
That one was pretty directly into the wind. That wind blowing against that baseball, but it still got out of here while in foul territory by a pretty large margin.
Ball in the dirt as Hastings heads to first base. So the leadoff man aboard for Trinity. Yeah, he got a lot on that ball.
And that's what you have to do in conditions like these. Trying to overcome the wind was just a little bit too far out in front of that one, but ultimately a good end result. I think if you're Sebastian on the mound, you recognize how hard that baseball was hit, and you try and stay away from him just a little bit. Unfortunately for the pitcher, just not the best circumstance to have that realization. 3-2 count, loses him, and Trinity will try and add some insurance. I have to imagine that this meeting currently happening is partially something to do with the bunt that didn't get down the last couple of half innings off of the bat of Jack Peterson. Calcone, not every day that you see him in this lineup, has an opportunity to earn some favor by just getting a job done.
Pulls back the bunt for ball one. Saw Coach Scannell heading back to the dugout. He told me he wants his team to go on a winning streak, and of course every coach wants their team to go on a winning streak, but he said it's about just being consistent. He's felt that the team has been inconsistent at points this year on all fronts, whether it's pitching, hitting, and that just winning 7 or 8 in a row really calmed some things down. As Hastings dives back to first.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty funny comment. Of course, every coach wants to see their team win baseball games, but it makes a lot of sense in the context of some of the results we've seen recently. Coney did break the plane on that one. Say he was unable to check his swing. It's a 2-1 count on the Trinity second baseman. I think very specifically allude to that game played last weekend against Shriner. And it's a game where the offense on occasion just completely disappears. No run support in that game, in a conference and a region where that is really the trademark. You anticipate pretty much every ball game you're going to go out and you're going to see double-digit runs that two teams combine for, and it's not what we've gotten here today, and that's certainly not what Trinity got last weekend.
Ball 4 as Coney draws the walk. He heads to first. But you talk about that series last weekend against Shriner. The Tigers taking Game 3, run ruling the Mountaineers in 7 innings. But the game before that, Game 2, they get shut out 4-0. Scannell saying that last weekend, a perfect example of what he's talking about. That inconsistency leading them to dropping a game that maybe they shouldn't have. So it'll be Kai Tinker, drops down a bunt. It's a good one. The runners advance, throw to first, gets away. Hastings will come home to score. Tinker heads to second. That run's going to count, and the Tigers lead 2-0.
I think that one might have gotten a piece of Tinker as he was moving down the line. Kind of just a weird trajectory as it ultimately wound up out of play, I believe, in the St. Thomas bullpen. Yeah, it goes off his helmet. So another ball that catches a base runner or hitter pretty cleanly, and Trinity will be the benefactor of it this time around. Another runner comes across to pad this cushion, and a couple more stand in scoring position with still no outs on the board.
That'll be the day for Sebesta. He leaves this game responsible for the runners at second and third. Still no outs on the board, bottom of the eighth. Trinity adding on to its 1-0 lead. New pitcher in the game for the Celts, it's Walter Holtzhausen. Comes in with a record of 1-1, impressive ERA, under 3. 11 innings pitched. As he fires strike one to Jack Baker, comes in with a big opportunity for the Tigers. Trinity up 2-0. Chance to add on to that lead with runners at second and third. Swing and a miss, strike two.
Baker coming in very aggressive, swinging the bat, and realistically plays right into what Holzhausen needs in this situation. A strikeout would be huge at the moment with no outs on the board.
Ball high, and it's 1-2. Double play, not a possibility. No runner on first. Kai Tinker dropped down a bunt, was able to reach, but the throw trying to get him hit his head, deflected into the dugout. So he winds up at second. Corson Hastings ended up scoring to make it 2-0. Baker now in a 2-2 count. Swing and a miss, strike three. C applies the tag, and the first out is on the board for St. Thomas.
He had a great job from C right there. First to block this pitch, And second, very quickly getting after it so that he can pick it up and apply the tag. No one over there at first base. You mentioned no double play ball in order in the infield. So important to avoid having to throw down. That's exactly what happens right there.
As Caleb Woodward enters the game, pops up a bunt. We've seen that a few times today, and Coach Scannell can't be happy with that.
Yeah, it looks like Coach Deering is making his way down the line just a little bit, trying to peer into the dugout. Didn't look like Cal Coney was breaking very hard from third base right there, or perhaps by the time I flipped my eyes out to that spot in the field, he had already retreated back to the bag all the way. But pretty surprised in these circumstances to see Woodward square around.
As the wind is blowing directly into left field now. It feels like it's getting stronger as this inning goes along. The lefty Woodward in a 1-1 count. Drops down a bunt. It's a good one. The throw home, not in time. Coney reaches in and scores. A bunt single for Caleb Woodward brings in the third run of the day. It's 3-0 Tigers.
Yeah, and getting the bunt down is really the biggest part of the battle right here. Puts it towards first base, and it's a good effort defensively. Nice little flip, ultimately just a little bit too high, and you can see quite clearly that Coney was in there and was able to get that hand swiped across the dish with plenty of time to spare.
So some insurance coming in for the Tigers as Peterson pops up a bunt again. And McKee will take the short trip to first for the double play. That's how the inning ends. But the Tigers add on 2 runs. It's 3-0 Trinity as we head to the top of the 9th on Tiger Network. Top of the 9th in San Antonio. Celts down to their final 3 outs as Will Hellings back on the mound. Trying to seal the deal and collect the save for the Tigers. It would be his 3rd of the year as he fires ball 1. Luke, I just have to mention this in the top of the 9th. It's our last chance to do it. These uniforms for St. Thomas are something else. They are amazing.
Yeah, it is always a little bit of a surprise to see the Celts in powder blues, but I think any time it wouldn't matter. If your primary color was yellow and you came out rocking powder blues, I would be a fan of it.
Pitch gets away and makes it 2-1. St. Thomas trailing 1-0 for a good chunk of this game. Not anymore. The deficit up to 3. Off the glove of Hellings. Coney ranges over, throw, pulls Hastings off the bag. And the leadoff man aboard for the Celts. A good start for them.
Yeah, exactly what you want to see if you're St. Thomas. Finally something bounces your way just a little bit more. Looked like Coney got here with plenty of time, just struggled a little bit to get this one out of the glove. Once he finally did, He just continued to move so far. It made it a little awkward throw back across his body. I think if he doesn't have this bobble, he'll have the opportunity to just set his feet and turn and throw. Of course, that wasn't the case, and St. Thomas certainly benefited from it here in Game 2 as they're trying everything they can for a last-ditch effort at a comeback.
A pinch hitter in for the Celts. It's Timothy Mansell, who takes ball 1. As Mansell started at DH yesterday, as you see the replay, the throw from Coney pulling Hastings off the bag, the wind continuing to rip in San Antonio. So the flags in center field have wrapped around the pole. That's how much it's swirling. Swing and a miss. Mansell down on strikes. 1 down in the inning.
A huge response from Hellings right there. Goes back to what he relies on the most. That fastball just too much for most of the hitters that step into the box. It's the case right there, and it's a big out number 1 after the leadoff man gets aboard.
Ball gets away from Lazera temporarily, able to hold the runner though, as now Israel Fields comes up with 1 down in the 9th. And a runner on first. He's been in a slump, and what a time it would be to break out of it. Swing and a miss, strike 1.
Of course, he's had 2 batted balls that just didn't fall his way. One that looked like it would drop in center field, robbed by Jack Peterson. The other smoked to Cal Coney out there at second base, but a leaping grab denied him a second time in this one.
1-2 pitch from Hellings. Outside, evens the count at 2-2.
Again, trying to just blow the fastball by Fields right there. Loses that one a little bit arm side. Still pretty impressive with the velo.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts for Will Hellings, and St. Thomas is down to their final out.
You have what is a pretty true closer coming into the game. I think at this level especially, you're anticipating 1 pitch and 1 pitch only, considering what Hellings has thrown so far. It's the fastball over and over and over again. It got him ahead in that at-bat, but just great sequencing. Threw that pitch, missed just outside off the plate, and then came back and had Fields way out in front of a breaking ball. Great change of pace right there, keeping the hitter off balance.
Now the leadoff man, Alex Trin, the last hope for St. Thomas. Walked the last time he was up. He's 0 for 2 today. First pitch misses, and it's 1-0. Tigers trying to secure a series victory. Runner goes, no throw made, and the first run for St. Thomas in scoring position. The Celts shut out last night, a 6-0 win for Trinity, in danger of being shut out again on a night where the Tigers' offense was inconsistent, couldn't bring runs across. That might be able to do enough. Grounded, up the middle and through. 1 run coming home. It will score, and the Celts are on the board and within 2.
And a couple of times this inning where we see the baseball just perfectly placed. This time, one beat really hard into the ground right at Will Hellings. But of course, with this turf, high bounces have been a factor here today. And this one gets over his head pretty easily. A little bit more pace on it as that topspin carried it past Cal Coney. Jack Peterson understanding the situation, 3-1 game. Probably more important to keep the runner over at first, and that ultimately allows that run to come across. So St. Thomas finally gets one just moments after we talk about near back-to-back shutouts. They're still in need of a lot.
Runner goes again, swing and a miss, and it looked like he actually fouled it off. So they're going to send Trin back to first base, who is into second easily with a stolen base. Brings the count to 1-1 to Bearden. Bearden's walked twice in this one. Swing and a miss, strike 2, and the Celts are down to their last strike.
And interesting, Corson Hastings not playing on the bag, holding in a traditional sense. After the runner took off a couple of offerings ago on that foul tip, he's started to at least make his presence known.
Swing and a miss, strike 3, and the Tigers win. Will Hellings shuts the door as Trinity takes game 2, 3-1.
And takes the runner out of the equation right there, allows Hellings to refocus on the matter at hand, just getting that final out, and that's exactly what he does. Fastball on full display here tonight in San Antonio. What a tremendous effort tonight and across the past 2 days that ultimately get them this series victory. More than anything else, it's been the performance of this pitching staff, just tremendous across 2 games.
Pitching staff on both sides, sensational. As today, the Tigers get the win. Will Hellings earning another save on his total. Trinity clinches the series victory, winning 2 of 3 games against St. Thomas. Game 3 will be here tomorrow at 1 p.m. We hope you join us for that. As from everybody here in San Antonio in the control room, everybody working the cameras, my partner Luke Terry, we say so long from a windy San Antonio. I'm Cole Isaacson, hoping to see you again tomorrow.